With 3 episodes left to go, does X-Men 97 finally pull a page from the Amber Heard playbook? Let's talk about that.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
So folks, each and every week I have the distinct pleasure of coming to you and talking about X-Men 97. There's only one problem though. Every review is the same. I liked the show. I know, right? It's very surprising in the modern age to have a show and talk about enjoying it. Everybody out there that thinks they're an armchair critic goes, it's good, but I have problems. Of course you have problems. You know everything, right? I know everything, right? No, none of us do. But what I do know is that each and every week for the last 8 weeks now, I have woken up to watch X-Men 97, and I never once went, that wasn't very good. I've been either on the edge of my seat or going, I can't wait for the next one. And like all the other episodes that have come before it in this series, I can't wait for the next episode because this one ties everything together. It finally lets us see the big endgame, the climax of the story, and it sets us up for a new status quo for the X-Men. I'm glad that this show started out with the X-Men being in the good graces of humanity and the United States government. It's a very different approach to X-Men. It's the X-Men from the 80s. They had already been published for roughly 20 years, even though the book was canceled at some point. And we had this balance because every episode you can't have protests and this and that. It gets tiresome. We are stuck in this course with X-Men where we keep spinning the wheel over and over again. They started it out right with the first 2 X-Men films, but after they tried to jump the gun and go to Dark Phoenix at X3, the X-Men franchise has been really messy on film. You might like Logan, great. You might like the Wolverine, You might like Days of Future Past like I do. But overall, great X-Men, let me rephrase that, consistent X-Men has never been a thing on film. This show has been consistent for quite some time, and that's its greatest strength. Each and every week I go in enjoying it, and I don't have to go, is this the one where blank happens? No. Sorry, if you're expecting me to get angry and rage out like the Incredible Hulk, we've already seen the Hulk on this show. Thunderbolt Ross was last week. This week we have other superheroes. We got the Silver Samurai, he's a villain, but we also got a very famous superhero, and we'll talk about him at the end of the episode. That was kind of cool, but that's not important. We'll talk about that later, and of course we'll talk about Doctor Strange and the Vishanti. So this week's episode is all about the villain, his master plan, how it comes together. It's really important. This show doesn't have a lot of skippable content, but this is the one that you have to have a little more of a backstory to understand. This is why Previously on X-Men exists. No, it's not to save money and time on animation. That's a lie, that's a misnomer. Nobody in TV is worried about saving cash. No. Previously on X-Men exists solely to remind you what happened on X-Men 97 the week before. I'm joking. But this week's episode does do a couple cool new things that we'll talk about in a moment. So this week we learn about the origin of this season's villain, Bastion. Now Bastion is an interesting character. He is the product of a non-consensual robot from the future and a human woman that made a baby somehow, and that baby is a very, very bad man. See, Nimrod infected a janitor at a college. That janitor got this lady pregnant, and they created the end of the world. It's like The Omen, but way more scientifically focused. We jump to the present where we see him talk to Mr. Sinister and other world villains about his big master plan. Now, you're taking over the Marvel world, and you're talking about supervillains. Who's the biggest one in their world? Well, it would be Doctor Doom. It'd be cool if we could get Doctor Doom in this show. Oh, wait, we do. Yes, Doctor Doom is in this episode. Silver Samurai, it keeps on going. Keep watching. Baron Zemo's there too, but after the Captain Falcon Winter Soldier show, or Captain America Winter Soldier, I don't remember who it is. Winter Soldier, Falcon, whatever the show is. I don't really like Baron Zemo anymore. His dancing and all that stupid crap. No thanks. I'd rather have the guy in the purple mask who gets that shit glued to his head and can never take it off over the, jokey, dancy, I wear a fur coat because I'm rich kind of Baron Zemo. What is that? No thank you. Now this is the one part of the show that some people could read into because there's an allegory for the modern world. It kind of comes off as a dig at the keyboard warriors, and that is stupid. That is one of those things where I go, really, I get what you're trying to put in there. I understand that, believe me. Your show's not that deep, or I'm smarter than I realized, and this allegory was a little too on the nose. I didn't like it. Does that make the show woke? No, not really. I consider woke something different. Maybe I'll tell you that in Wokebusters. Find out next week. But after that speech, we have to catch up with more of the team. We have to catch up with Jubilee and Sunspot. Now, Sunspot was the character everybody thought was going to be the gay allegory. They were disliking him. They were writing the show off. Look at that character. He's going to be the diversity hire. It's the fucking X-Men. What are you talking about? But anyway, long story short, that was never a problem with Sunspot. He and Jubilee have kind of a relationship, aka they do have a relationship, and Jubilee goes over to dinner to talk to Sunspot's parents, and basically they're gonna be what they're gonna be, unsupportive, embarrassed of their kid, and Jubilee takes offense to that, so they go out and they go shopping. And we find that Jubilee and Sunspot go to the mall. There's a little store called Wasserman's where they buy new clothing. If you don't know what Wasserman is, well, Ron Wasserman was the guy that wrote the X-Men theme, the thing that they copy at the beginning of every episode. That's him. He also did the Power Rangers theme, so thanks, Ron. I wish you got more royalties. But we're going to leave Jubilee and Sunspot alone for just a moment. Now, back at the mansion, Beast is talking to Trish Tilby. She's the newswoman from the other episode. She's the one that interviewed the X-Men. She asked them questions that Beast took offense to. So she's trying to get back in his good graces. It's not as interesting as the blind lady from the original series, but it's still a relationship. Or is it? So the happy family of Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Nathan Summers, aka Cable, go off to learn a little more about Bastion's family. Look, I keep flubbing my lines because Bastion looks like David Bowie to me, so I keep wanting to call him David Bowie or Nimrod because Nimrod's such a terrible name for a character. So I apologize, folks, but back to the episode. I'm setting it up a specific way because you need to know where each character is. So you have Jean, Cyclops, and Cable over with Nimrod. So you have Jean, Cyclops, and Cable over here with Bastion's mom. You have Jubilee and Sunspot at the mall. You have Beast with Trish Tilby. And then the shit hits the bed. See, the master plan comes to play. What Annihilus... Wow. I am coming up with every Marvel villain ever. Annihilus, High Evolutionary, Psycho Man, you name it, there's also toys over here. So we finally see Bastion's plan come to fruition. Bastion's been experimenting on people. He's found a way, through the future and technology, to turn normal people into Sentinels. Yes, you can dunk them in a green fluid and they come up Sentinels. It's like the old toy. Remember, you'd put the plastic into the Wolverine mold and you'd crank it, and all of a sudden you'd have a little Wolverine figure. They made it with the Terminator as well. That's basically what he's doing here. He's dipping them in and pulling them out. It's like making ice cream bar, except on the inside there's not ice cream, but humanity tied in with the techno-organic virus. It's beautiful. So anyway, I wanted to set up the plot of letting you know where every character is, because all at the exact same time, the plan goes into fruition, and all the people that are talking to the X-Men, no matter where they are, turn into Sentinels. So Jubilee and Sunspot are at the clothing store in the mall, and all of a sudden, everybody starts turning into these zombie things and shooting laser blasts at them, and they gotta run for their life. And we see Jubilee switch into her Generation X costume, the black one with the yellow coat. Well, now that's here. We see Trish Tilby turn into one of these creatures as she's talking to Beast, and that starts a huge fight at the X-Mansion. That is where Nightcrawler and Wolverine are. And you know, for a while, aka this entire season, I thought Wolverine hasn't had very much to do. Wolverine's tied for my favorite X-Men character, so I expected him to do a little more. Then again, I grew up in the era where it was actually Wolverine, then the rest of the X-Men. Look at the Hugh Jackman movies, look at the old cartoon. Wolverine is the focus of a lot of stuff because he's the most popular. This show pulls it back and makes him a supporting player like the rest of the team. It feels a lot more like John Byrne X-Men, or Chris Claremont X-Men. See, folks, I always go artist first because I'm an artist. But the battle at the mansion's going down, and then it cuts to Cable and Jean Grey and Cyclops and Bastion's mother, and she becomes one of those things as well. Yes, this guy is so bad that he'll turn his own mother into a Sentinel. Guy has no shame, no humanity, no remorse. He is an unrepentant bastard, and I can't wait to see what happens to him. Thematically, this is one of X-Men 97's strongest points, because any time that something horrific or terrible happens, they take a strong horror element and they put it at the forefront of X-Men. X-Men has had horror elements in a lot of comic books, and this show was not afraid to do that. This show isn't for 90s kids, it's for the 90s kids who grew up. So you can make the X-Men and you can put them in scarier scenarios, and it works because it's always been who they are. 90s television was very sanitized across the board, and children's television was the worst. Don't even get me started with Spider-Man. He couldn't land on a rooftop by birds or break glass or anything like that. What world do we fucking live in? But this whole invasion of the body snatchers style of tension really works for X-Men. Anybody could be a bad guy. Everybody's a bad guy. Who's gonna be a bad guy? I love it. It's like what Marvel should have done with the Skrulls. Instead of pissing it away for jokes in Captain Marvel, they should have gone ahead and made the Skrulls embedded in the government. I know they did it in Secret War or Secret Invasion or whatever that crappy TV show was, but it was a crappy TV show and it was way too late. You can't do that after the story's over. Oh, but we had Endgame. We couldn't blow that off. Motherfucker, you should have had that tied into it. You should have had it end where something happens, the world's saved, and then that person that saves the world turns into a Skrull. Then we're going, oh, what the hell's next? Instead of this, I don't want to pay Robert Downey Jr. all this money and ruin my franchise. That's a different topic for another day. So Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Cable all escape Bastion's mother on the X-Jet. There's a huge army or legion of these damn Sentinels that are coming after him. So they somehow take off in the jet, the Blackbird, and they escape. But all of a sudden, these Sentinels attack them in the sky. And again, we see the Blackbird destroyed. It's the third time this season. And instead of just accepting defeat, they kind of fly it down. And all of a sudden, as it's about to hit the ground, a Porsche flies out the back. And we have a chase scene with Cyclops, Jean, and Cable being chased by a horde of Sentinels in a Porsche. It's cool looking. I liked it. Again, this show's strong point is its action. It can take the story and the thematic elements, and it does them well, but we have to remember, this is a cartoon. You're supposed to sell it to kids. It's supposed to be bright and colorful, and also, too, the big kids and all of us like the big, bright, colorful stuff. If you think that X-Men or superhero or anything out there is meant to be for like old guys only, and it's only supposed to appeal to our sensibilities in our 30s. No. It's supposed to appeal to our sensibilities from when we were a child, but in a package that is acceptable in our 30s. And X-Men 97 is just that. It's crazy. It's got people flying around, driving around, blowing shit up. It's everything you want on screen. And then it gets better. We see Sunspot and Jubilee trying to escape the Sentinels, and all of a sudden they fly into Sunspot's mother's gala, the event, the party she's having. And the Sentinels roll up and they say, we don't want to hurt mutants, we want to save them. And so Sunspot's mom turns him over to the Sentinels, and that's the last we see of him. But that's not the last we see of the mutants in general. See, there's this one big mutant, Magneto, who escapes. Not every human hates the mutants. And the woman who was from the UN, the blonde lady that we all thought was going to be Mystique, she might be later, she lets Magneto go, and Magneto escapes. And all of a sudden, Magneto creates this huge magnetic wave. He goes to the North Pole and he creates all this magnetic energy and he envelops the planet. We see other locations on the planet as the Earth quakes in fear. And then we cut to New York City where we see garbage and debris and electromagnetic energy flying everywhere. And we cut up to the sky and all of a sudden this little guy in a red and blue costume lands on a rooftop and Spider-Man appears. Yes, Spider-Man. And this is 90s Spider-Man. How do I know? The eye shape. So that's what it would look like if Spider-Man 1998 ever took place. If you want to know what the further adventures would look like, watch this episode of X-Men. Spidey pops up. Was it cool? Yes. Does he talk? No. Does it really go on more than that? No. If you're a fan of the old show, you remember that during that one episode, I know I'm being very specific here, but during the episode where the Earth is about to be destroyed in the 90s, there are these two people that are about to be killed, and all of a sudden two hands shoot out some webs and save those people. Very cool. This one, you get to see Spider-Man full on. Was it cool? Yes. Did I geek out? I said, cool, it's Spider-Man, and that's about the end of it. See, if this show was full of Easter eggs and that's all the show had, then I'd shit on it. See, it can be free of wokeness, but if it's a garbage show, that's what I care about. This show hasn't been that. It knows how to flesh out the show, it knows how to talk about the deeper meanings, and it knows how to continue a story that makes me think about a show all week long, all while being in a fun, consumable, digestible package. This is not boring, this is not tame, this is not hours of people talking ad nauseum. This is X-Men. Every episode is full of action, and if people say it's boring, then they're full of shit. Okay, I digress. Look, folks, it is subjective here. I don't want to be that guy, but come on. What do we watch superheroes for? Big action, great stories. This kind of has all of it. So realistically, the episode ends with one last thing. We go back to the X-Mansion after all of these Sentinels have been destroyed. Everybody's relaxed, the day is saved, and then all of a sudden something comes crashing through the roof of the mansion. A spaceship. Inside that spaceship, a man in bug armor. He takes off his helmet, and it's Professor X. He summons the rest of the X-Men. Now shit's about to go down. So we see Jean and Cyclops and Storm and Beast, and Storm's in her black costume. So we're going to see an X-Men where it's the 90s style for some characters, the classic styles for the other, and their post-92 style for others. It's going to be cool. It's going to create a nice amalgamation of all X-Men. I like where we are. I'm excited to see where this show goes. I'm excited to see how this show ends. And yes, we have confirmation for more seasons. Could the show shit the bed then? Could the show shit the bed in this third season? Will I continue to watch it? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. But I'll only continue to watch it if it's good. Because, folks, the one thing I always tell you, it's your time is valuable. I am grateful that you spend all the time you do watching us here on the WCBS channel. We're going to give you more because you want to spend more time with us. But one of the things we pride ourselves is helping you avoid wasting your time on entertainment. So I say each and every week, and I will stand by it again, X-Men 97 is not a waste of your time. It's another fun, exciting epic. It has deeper meanings, it has deeper allegories, it has deeper things that the X-Men always have. But at the end of the day, it's an X-Men show through and through. It's fun, it's impactful, it's impressive to look at, and it includes Spider-Man. Now, I'm taking Spider-Man off my score, but I don't actually review each and every episode. How we're going to do this, folks, is we're going to get the last two We're going to get the last 2 episodes down in the can. Then we're going to do an entire retrospective of the season. That's where I'll give you the score. And then I'm going to do a whole video. Was it woke or not? And we'll talk about that as well. It's fun and exciting to watch X-Men every week. It's exciting to have something to look forward to. And well, after the next 2 weeks are over, I guess I'll have to find something else to review. So folks, let me know a series that you want to hear us review. I'm going to go ahead and watch Knuckles, and I'm just going to give you a video about that. I'm late to Fallout, I know. Do you still want that? I've had some real life stuff, some Wokebusters stuff, and other things that I had to take care of, so I haven't been able to watch Fallout. But is that something you guys want us to talk about? Let us know. We pay attention to how clips and everything do in terms of numbers, so we use that as a metric for what you guys want us to talk about. Fallout's kind of in that middle area, so if we get a lot of emails or responses or messages on Twitter, then we'll go watch Fallout. And if you don't want it, then we're just not going to go on about it, and we'll do something else. So folks, let us know what you want. All I want to let you know is that Wokebusters, I will have the sign-up page ready for the Thursday podcast, aka tomorrow. So that's what I'm going to have, and that's when it's going to be ready. Waiting on this trailer to get finalized. We have some footage of stuff, but it's not the trailer. We're going with the best because Wokebusters is the best. So folks, when you buy one of my books, you get no corners cut across the board. In terms of story, art, production team, you name it, printing, I go the extra mile for you guys because I love comics and I'm grateful that I get to do them. Stealing Solo was a big hit, a 6-figure hit, and I'm so grateful to everybody who continues to pick it up on the website. It is available for a limited time. Go to stealingsolo.com if you want a copy of that. And like I tell all the Star Wars fans out there, if you want the sequel to Stealing Solo and the 3rd book, which is the final chapter in the Stealing Solo trilogy, all you got to do is help me sell the rest of my books. So folks, we will have an initiative for that a little later in the year. I may or may not have started to flesh out the story and work on that 2nd one, because the 3rd one, Frankenfisher, the Bride of Solo, is about digging up the corpse of Carrie Fisher and reanimating her, and it's a strong commentary on what they do with all of these old school actors. So folks, if you want Frankenfisher, the 3rd chapter, because we got to get something up with Luke, well, you know what to do. But don't worry about that just yet, folks. Let's talk about Wokebusters, and let's make that the biggest hit of 2024, 2025, and every year. Let's blow every book out of the water. Mainstream, independent, you name it. I wish all my fellow creators the best of luck and hope you guys sell just as well as me. But folks, I got my eye on the bigger prize, the top. So folks, join us as we go for the top, get that gold play button, take it to Japan because we buy the tickets tomorrow, and a whole lot more. Folks, it's the most exciting time to be involved in WCBS. Why? Because we have the know-how and the money to do the shit that we didn't at the beginning of the channel's life. So folks, thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with more. Do the 4 things I always ask. Be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.